I don't think there was one moment when I thought I want to be a photographer, but I was always drawn to it. And then my mum and dad bought me a camera for my 18th birthday. It was Olympus OM10. And it was just trial and error then that I started, you know, using this camera and getting into the lenses, all self-taught by going to the library. You know, when I was 18, that was like almost like a new life for me, you know, like another chance.
In 2017, Paul Skin Phillips was known throughout the world of international skateboarding as a living legend. No easy accolade for a boy from Swansea, with no formal education and an early life that was at times far from ideal.
Yeah, it's my clapping. Brilliant.
Do I start now? So I lived with my mum and dad, brother and grandmother. There was 6 of us in this 2-bedroom little terraced house in town. And it was just this, you know, that the 60s, all my early memories were this just perfect, loving family. You know, kids were out playing all day in the streets. You come home when it was dark. We were out all the time, just causing mischief. When I was a kid, I was good at sport, so I fitted into the, you know, with the teachers because they liked that about me. I was captain of all the teams. I was, you know, the rugby team, football team.
Skin was talent spotted for a local boys' club and showed huge promise on the playing field. A career in football seemed like a natural shoe-in, but it wasn't meant to be. At 12 years old, and through no fault of his own, things took a turn for the worse.
So from 10 till 12, every weekend was just football, football, football. That's all it was. And in that time then, I was sexually abused by the coach.
The coach later served time for sexual abuse and has since passed away. But for Skin, the damage had been done. In his own words, he never played sport again.
That happened for about a year. I don't think I had it as bad as a lot of other kids had it, but I was definitely bullied. I was definitely sexually abused. I didn't even realise that at the time, but then I just rebelled. I was fighting at school, getting into like trouble, shoplifting, doing all the petty stuff. Just in this little gang, started doing burglaries. When we got done, it ended up like 180 burglaries, and they'd done us for 6. I was completely out of my depth when I was 14 in jail, in a man's jail. It did really, really scare me. Especially at a young age, you know? Yeah. But one good thing happened in that. I read my first book. I read Papillon when I was in there.
With the support of his ever-loyal family and some clever wranglings by his no-nonsense mum, Skin got a reduced sentence. With a change in attitude and a new interest in art and photography, he started to turn things around. Although an industrial heartland, Swansea had long-held links to surfing and the California lifestyle that came with it. People had surfed the Gower beaches since the late 50s. Local heroes returning from trips to the States brought back an authentic, all but Welsh take on a lifestyle that began to dominate the local coastline.
I saw surfing from a super young age. I remember at that time I really wanted to be a surf photographer. I started producing these sort of decent shots. I had photos in surf magazines, so that's how the career, when I was like 19, 20, that's how the sort of photography career started off.
By 1977, the skateboarding scene in Swansea had properly kicked off. With few waves in the summer and inspired by the Dogtown skaters of Venice Beach, California, local Swansea surfers chopped up their roller skates and attached them to plywood boards. The transition from surfing to skateboarding was a natural progression.
And this is where it all started for me. Drink up the road and skate down here and just hang out in the summer. So this was a big, this was the heart of the surf scene and the skateboard scene. Every kid had a skateboard in this little area here was where it kind of all went on in the 80s.
Inspired by their 70s heroes, the Langland skateboarding crew grew from a handful of local friends to a maverick bunch of do-it-yourself skaters. Skin had long since made the transition from surfing to skateboard photography and was on hand to capture it all.
and that's how I met the skating crew, and that's how I started taking skateboarding photos of those guys when I was 18, who'd seen the 70s surfers do it, and they built their own, they built their own ramp at that point in Langland.
By 1989, Swansea was firmly on the international skateboarding map. The now famous Morpher skateboard ramp really started to hit the heights. Skating royalty like Tony Hawk and the Bones Brigade were now in Swansea, hitting the ramp hard and mixing it up with Swansea's homegrown breed of ramp skaters. But by now, Skin had the American skate industry well in his sights. With a move to the States in the early 90s, the Swansea-born photographer took on the beast that was the American skate industry and won it over on his own terms. Under the mentorship of renowned skate photographer Grant Britton, Skin's pictures began to adorn the pages of Transworld Skateboard magazine. His photographs consistently breaking new boundaries, his voice finally being heard.
Everything I shot was published. Everything in some way, every roll would have photos on it that I would make money off. I went from like making nothing, 30 quid a week dole money to going to America and making $100,000 a year. In that 94, that 1 year, everything changed. 2002, I think it was 480 pages. It was just bringing in millions an issue through advertising. It was like the Vogue of skateboarding at the time. It was huge, it was all over the world.
By the mid-noughties, Skin had moved up the ranks and through his own hard work and determination was now editor-in-chief of the biggest skateboard magazine in the world.
I was, one of the guys that were responsible for that. Not only just a photographer, but the voice of the magazine as well. Not just being told what to do, deciding what to do. I learned a lot. I saw a lot too. We were owned by Time Warner for a while, so I spent a lot of time in New York, like on Wall Street, doing deals with them. So
1, 2, 3, done.
My career, I saw the good and the bad. I was really lucky that I had a Welsh girl with me, so even though I was living in California, I had, fell in love, had the family.
For Skin and Co, life seemed good in sunny San Diego. Not bad for a working class kid from Swansea and a million miles from his hometown roots as a local surf photographer. But for years, Skin had known that things weren't right. And for the second time in his life, things started to go downhill. On the outside, Skin seemed at the height of his powers, but unbeknown to most, he'd been suffering from a serious bipolar illness for a number of years. The pressure of years on the road and a fast-paced life of international skateboarding had eventually taken its toll.
I was so obsessed with work. That's all I cared about. I'd shoot photos every day. I'd be out shooting photos every day, traveling non-stop, never taking a vacation, never taking a holiday. It was just all I cared about were the photos. I just could not switch off from my brain, just going into overdrive. And then that ended up into a breakdown that happened at work. Ambulance came, and that's when I was in the ambulance, I had this panic attack. I was going to get locked up. That was my first manic bipolar episode. That was about 2012, maybe.
Although suffering from bipolar, Skin refused to take a backward step, opting instead for the opportunity to step up his career.
Straight after that, I went from editor-in-chief of a media company. I became team manager of the Adidas Skateboarding Global Team. I didn't think it at the time, but I kind of went out of the frying pan and just went beep, back into the fire.
By this time, Skin was travelling the world, occasionally dropping into his hometown. On a trip back to Swansea, things again took a turn for the worse. Skin was institutionalised at the local mental health hospital.
I ended up being sectioned to Kevin Coyd. So that was in the summer when I was still living in America. lost my job at Adidas, marriage ended, and everything that could go wrong went wrong. When I was institutionalized, I had a friend up there, Mike Pettifer, who was a psychiatric nurse up there, and that was the first time that I was like, I sort of got to grips with it, because I actually went into, I got real help.
On the road to recovery and no longer in denial about his illness, Paul Skin Phillips is now back home in Swansea where his journey began. He's made the brave decision to start talking openly about his mental health issues while reflecting on a journey that's seen him travel around the world.
I have all these skateboard families around the world. I have a family in Stuttgart, I have a family in Buenos Aires, I have a family in Tokyo. But then I have friends that I shot in 1992. I've known them since they were 15.
Oh, look out.
Those are my dear lifelong friends. That's what we talk about when we're out skateboarding. We still talk about skateboarding and nothing else.
Back in Swansea with camera in hand, Skin Phillips is back to doing what he does best, taking great pictures while supporting a new generation of dedicated Swansea skaters.
So I'm still part of the scene in Swansea, still, with the younger crew. Still got the Exist shop every week. Without the skateboarding scene, I'd be in jail or dead. Easy, it's simple. That the skateboard and the photography were the vehicles into the new worlds and new opportunities. Without them, I dread to think what would have happened. I'd be dead. I'd be in jail or I'd be dead. One of the two. Or in the pub.
She told Johnny her love would never die. His words echoed in his head as he waved to her goodbye. Trampled from the station, he let go of her hand. Johnny left to fight a war to prove himself in some strange foreign land.